Imagine witnessing your own daughter strangled to death and laying half naked in front of your eyes. That's a nightmare for any parent. But that was the fate that followed Phil Vetrano, an ex-firefighter who was expecting his daughter to return home after her routine jog in Howard Beach, Queens, New York.
You found your daughter.
I did. With the help of the PD.
As a parent, I have a hard time even getting my arms around that.
I think as a parent, you would rather you find your child than someone else. It's the last act of protection you can give your child.
Why would someone commit such an evil act of crime to a girl who was so full of life and ambition?
What strikes me out of all these pictures is her incredible zest for life.
There was so much in her, and she achieved so much, and she would have achieved so much more. The sky was the limit.
A heinous murder that sent shockwaves through the nation, forcing every woman to reevaluate her sense of security in the most advanced country on earth. In a relentless pursuit of justice, over 600 DNA samples were meticulously examined, and a staggering 1,700 investigation reports scrutinized, all in the quest to unmask the brutal killer. Who was this shadowy monster, and did he have any connection to the unsuspecting victim, Karina? Most crucially, did the wheels of justice eventually turn, leading to his conviction? On the 2nd of August 2016, Karina Ann Vetrano, a vibrant 30-year-old woman, went for a routine jog in Spring Creek Park, just a stone's throw away from her home. Little did she know that this would be her last run. Karina possessed an unwavering passion for fitness. Typically, her father Louis would be her jogging companion, but on this ill-fated day, call it destiny or fate, he found himself unable to join her due to a back injury he was recovering from. But as the hours passed and there were no signs of return from Karina, her parents started getting anxious.
That's a day that I will never forget. I started to worry, which was unusual. I had a feeling. So I called her 3 times, didn't answer, and I went out looking for her.
The panic just immediately set in. It didn't seem to make sense to me.
Hours later, when she failed to return home, her father's worst fears became a reality, and he launched a search for his daughter. Tragically, he found her lifeless body face down, just 15 feet off the trail. The scene was chilling, with her sports bra pulled down, revealing her breasts, and her underwear and shorts haphazardly strewn around her. Her left shoe was found lying on the trail, and the sock of the same wet. There were visible signs of sexual abuse on her body. However, there were no clear signs or evidence that could confirm that the criminal was able to actually commit sexual abuse against Karina, as the warrior gave him a tough fight. Upon further investigation of the crime scene, the detectives came up with this.
Show me where Karina was found.
She's found here. A lot of thick weeds, very thick, 6 to 8 feet tall. So we believe this puddle right here is important because her socks were wet when the body was found. The only way they could have gotten wet is through this puddle, we believe. So she was dragged off this path. Her property, her earbuds, they're thrown over here, which is just north of this path. The body is dragged into here. Her cell phone is thrown that direction. And her one sneaker is thrown over here. Pretty good run, pretty good throw, it's 132 feet.
What does this tell you?
It tells us that at some point she's dragged off the path. Karina puts up a battle. She's beaten. She does. She's beaten pretty severely. At some point, he drags her in there. There's no way anybody's gonna...
Signs of a violent struggle were evident, with Karina biting her attacker so fiercely that her teeth cracked. She was strangled so hard that a handprint was left on her neck. DNA evidence was found on her body, under her fingernails, and on her phone, which had been discarded nearby. Yet amidst this chilling revelation, a singular, haunting question remained. Who was the monstrous perpetrator who murdered Karina? In a gripping tale of suspense and intrigue, the authorities embarked on a relentless quest for justice with their only weapon, the DNA sample. Their initial focus zeroed in on Karina's ex-boyfriend, who was the prime suspect of the case. However, he quickly cleared the test and proved to be innocent. Yet, the pursuit for the criminal kept moving strong. Family bonds were tested as the authorities turned their focus to Karina's closest relatives. Each test, a trial by fire, yielded the same result: innocence. In a plot twist that sent shockwaves through the investigation, even Karina's own father was interrogated as a possible suspect, but to no one's surprise, he cleared the test immediately. This led to two unfavorable possibilities, which cast a dark shadow over her case. The suspect was either an ex-inmate who served time before 1998 and had no current record to trace, or on the other hand, the criminal could be a teenager whose acts lack incriminating evidence. Both these possibilities weren't in favor of tracking down the criminal behind Vetrano's case. With over 600 DNA samples, a tempting $300,000 reward, and the brightest minds in law enforcement at their disposal, the NYPD was determined to bring the perpetrator to justice. But as the days turned into weeks and then months, there were no leads to proceed the case further. The only thread that could have led the authorities to the killer was the DNA evidence, yet it was a cruel twist of fate that none of those samples matched any of their prime suspects. With no other security footage to lead to the criminal and zero DNA matches, it seemed like Karina was not going to receive the justice that she deserved. Until 6 months had passed since the murder, and the investigators finally found a breakthrough. A young man in a wool cap was found on the security footage around the same vicinity when Karina was jogging in Spring Creek's park. Fueled by the desperate need for witnesses and any possible clues to unmask the murderer, the police zeroed in on Chanel Lewis, a 20-year-old resident of Brooklyn. The very first encounter with Lewis set off alarm bells among the authorities, but what they were about to discover was a man far more complex and unsettling than anyone could have imagined. A cursory check of criminal records proved that his name was clear, seemingly eliminating him as a possible suspect. Nevertheless, the authorities took an aim in the dark, delved deeper into the life of Chanel Lewis, and some disturbing facts about the man came to light. Medical records that proved that Lewis got treated for bruises on his body on the very same day of Karina Vetrano's murder presented an undeniable coincidence that authorities could not simply dismiss. Very soon, this phone call surfaced.
Is a suspicious person just walking back and forth around the block?
Yeah, he's looking in yards around different blocks, just by himself.
A mere 3 months prior, a lieutenant had filed a complaint, expressing concerns about Lewis loitering in the vicinity of Karina's tragic murder. With this additional evidence, authorities felt compelled to apprehend Lewis and conduct a thorough DNA analysis to ascertain any connection to the suspect. To everyone's astonishment, the perpetrator of Karina Vetrano's heinous murder turned out to be a 20-year-old Lewis, a revelation that left everyone in disbelief. However, for Lewis's family, the situation was further complicated by their belief that the accusations against their son were rooted in racial injustice, given his status as a marginalized black man.
My son is not a murderer. My son would never kill this young lady.
The New York Police Department said they were confident that Chanel committed the crime. What are your thoughts about that?
They believe that my son is helpless. They were looking for somebody definitely to place these trials on. That's the reason why they chose to do it.
Nonetheless, forensic experts delivered a verdict that left no room for doubt, emphasizing that Lewis's DNA had a probability of 1 in 6 trillion of belonging to anyone else. The authorities took a resolute stance on the matter, leaving no room for ambiguity.
My fear was always, in this case, it would come down to a racial issue. One of the fears we had. That's why we didn't put it out that he was a male black when we knew from the DNA profile. We kept race out of this thing. The amount of evidence recovered here by the detectives, the hard work they put in, really shows that he is the perpetrator.
With several ups and downs and an interrogation that lasted over 12 hours, Lewis finally confessed that he murdered Katrina.
About how many times did you hit her in the face?
Around 5.
Was she still moving when you had your hands around her neck?
Oh yeah, and then she dropped into the water. After that, she was just lying there.
He had no specific reason to kill, except for the fact that he was annoyed and in a bad mood. Unfortunately, he took out all of his frustration on Karina as she was passing by him on her jog. Throughout the course of the case, numerous allegations, including juror misconduct and DNA tampering, continually swayed the trajectory of proceedings. Both sides had vigorously presented their cases, leaving the fate of the accused in the hands of the jury. Following the heated discussion, the jury was ready to unveil their momentous decision, casting the spotlight on the ultimate resolution of this grave mystery.
We, the jury, find the defendant guilty.
Chanel Lewis was sentenced to prison for lifetime without any chance of parole. The case of Karina Vetrano's murder is a haunting tale of a vibrant life cut short, painstaking detective work, and a trial filled with twists and turns. However, in the end, justice was rightfully served.
Today, everybody got justice. Karina got justice, and the murderer got his justice.
The fragility and uncertainty of life can be understood with this incident. May Karina's soul rest in peace, and the families of both Lewis and late Katrina find the strength and courage to navigate this painfully sorrowful incident. What were your thoughts on this case? Did you think the NYPD served justice fairly, or do you believe in a different story? Let us know everything in the comments down below.